Welcome back everyone once again to another truck request video. This is a series that I've started where you, the viewer, get to choose the base game truck that we will feature next, where I talk about it here in the garage tour section on how I would utilize this truck, how I would set it up, and just basically how to have fun in it, because there's some downsides that trucks have. And in here I talk about how to defeat some of those and also how to make it better and on things that it can do well. And then I talk about later in the driving portion on my history with the truck, how I thought about it back in the day, how I currently feel about it, how does it perform against other vehicles, current day 2025 season 14 or season 16, sorry. And then also moving forward in the year 5 pass in 2026 and 2027, because let's be real, the season or the year 5 pass will continue into Q1 2027 on SnowRunner, which is absolutely crazy. But anyways, moving forward, the Pacific P12 is a truck that I believe that most people dislike. And I'm not one of them. I'm actually a huge fanboy of this vehicle. And I think it's more or less out of defiance that it is not popular amongst the community. And if you actually go on my channel, on most of my hard mode playthroughs and also like little snippets where I'll go do things with the P12 and pull certain loads, I do those just out of defiance because people say it stinks, and I actually believe it doesn't. And I will show you why I think that it's just misunderstood, misplayed, and it can be rather good. I won't say it will ever be elite unless Saber does some type of crazy change. And also, please don't ask me about that. I don't know what Saber is going to do. Honestly, who knows? So that's something I'm kind of eagerly waiting for in the future, but I have a feeling they're not going to really touch it up as we would like to see, which is the arena of power. The P12 suffers from low power to weight, and that is essentially what players complain about the most. The second issue is it doesn't have all the add-ons that people want. And I think it's because of the change of perspective. Saber has given us very, very large vehicles with add-on combinations that most heavy-duty and off-road trucks have. Well, vehicles like the P12 and also like the, I would say 605R used to be revered as having a lot of add-ons for being as large as they are. And now they're regarded as just another thing that people say is a downside of them. So it used to be an upside, and then in 2021, and then now in 2025, it's a downside. So it's crazy how the perspective changes because of what Saber has given us. And I think Saber has kind of been the Santa Claus on just handing us add-ons just to make people happy. And I don't think I'm in agreement with that, but that's a whole other issue. So the main issue with the P12 is power to weight. Its power to weight says A-. I would actually say this is probably a C. This whole little slide chart here, I'm not super fascinated with this. I think it's kind of misleading, to be quite honest. So I wouldn't really take a look at these. I think there's spreadsheets to take a look at this stuff to give you a better picture against other vehicles. Something I will note on the P12 here is it has the Dream setup with the switchable all-wheel drive and always-on diff lock. This is for redirecting power to its aft axles, being able to switch this off. It's not for fuel savings. It has the advanced special and special gearboxes. Please don't use the fine tune. I believe this is a 20% all-wheel drive, I believe, not a 60. Certain fine tunes have different all-wheel drive penalties. I think this one's a 20, not a 60. If this was like an off-road and a highway gearbox or high-range gearbox, this would probably be a 60. So my choice with this would be the special or advanced special. If you'd like to see my video on gearboxes where I actually compare them all. So because it doesn't have a lot of power to weight, redirecting power to its aft axles is advantageous to use. So that is another thing I like, that it has the Dream setup. It's not for fuel savings at all. It's just for power redirection. No raised suspension here. And as you can see, tires, I have a tire chosen that you're probably wondering why in the world am I having an all-terrain tire on here. The simple fact that I do this is just because I want to turn tires. And I'm going to kind of talk about some tires here before we go back to that topic. I don't think you should use mud tires here. With the P12, you want to use a double. And you're probably wondering why. Doubles do two things. Doubles give you an added wheel, which gives you more weight. More wheel weights equal more pulling potential. Okay? Also, a double gives you more lateral stability. Okay. Now, the stability is probably not equally longitudinal because this tire here is the same width as this and this, right? In a double, you have more width in the back, less width in the front. Okay. But most of the time, your loads are on your rear tires. So P12, in my opinion, is very stable. I can link multiple videos if you'd like in the comment section of this vehicle holding up in a lot of areas. If you'd like to see those, just for me to back up that last statement I just made. But I would not use mud tires here. So just delete this off your list. Now, with OHDs, I know everyone's so the forums right now, everyone talks about OHD1, and like I almost wish I didn't create the video highlighting the OHD1 back in 2021 or 2022, whenever me and Max Power kind of highlighted the best tires in the game, which was like OHD1s and OHS2s in respective conditions, I guess. And if you want to take a look at those things, you can. But I almost wish I could go back and just say, okay, so this one performs the best, but I think that you could still use any tire in this off-road category and still perform relatively well. The small grip coefficients are not going to make up seconds of time. I'm not a believer in that. Especially, it's hard to track that in native game because human error is a thing, right? You're not going to take the exact same course on a track delivering cargo as you did the prior time. And also, you could deviate a small bit and save that 0.3 seconds somewhere else, right? So nowadays, I'm more so just choosing swag. The OHD1 and the OHD2 are still really good tires. They will still perform very, very well. So yeah, but I'm not going to use an OHD1 here. I'm not going to use any of these OHD options because the P12 struggles with power to weight. It struggles to turn its tires. So the choice a player has to make here when getting the P12 and operating it and pulling weight with it is there's two things you have to ask yourself. Do you want to struggle a little bit more in mud, go a little bit less quickly through mud pits, or would you rather go a little bit faster through mud pits but lock tires up when you're pulling up hills? For me personally, because I know that weight affects traction and the P12 has a lot of it, I will actually sacrifice grip coefficient, because sacrificing grip coefficient allows the engine to actually break the grip coefficient on the ground that the tires are providing and turn the tire. And the all-terrains have enough grip coefficient to actually propel you through the surface still. On top of that, you have load sitting on your saddle or on your truck, giving you additional traction via weight. So that's another thing. Weight increases traction. This was laid down by Sabre in February 2020, 2 months prior to the game coming out. Also, they confirmed it when I was making the mud running tips video. I talked to a representative on the community manager list, and I also talked to Sabre via email on this, and they responded to me. So that was actually confirmed, that grip increases traction into a certain point. The certain point that I believe is basically when your truck just grounds out and the grip from your tire moving through the surface and turning is not giving you enough grip coefficient and force to push you through anymore because you have so much resistance against your truck, right? Friction. And that's basically it. So in this case, to move the P16 and not lock tires, I'm going to use the all-terrain. It has been very helpful. Literally the other day on stream, we pulled a special mission trailer and I did not have to use the winch to pull me forward at all. I literally did not lock tires on season 16 pulling trailers up rocks. There was a couple times I got stuck because I just didn't have enough momentum. My tires weren't locked up. They were still spinning. I just didn't have enough momentum to get to the next surface. So I just backed up a little bit, got a little run, boom, got up there and it just went off. It just went. So I think with some patience, the P12 can work really well. It's not ever going to be elite, but I'll say if you just open up your mind here, the P12 can be very good. Winches, advanced special. I don't know why I have the twin motor on. This is the best one, the advanced special. I think has a longer rope as well. Same, I think the same pulling power multiplier. So that's one you want to use. Spare tire, I think you can probably use these if you're just hauling from like a saddle position. here because you should have a lot of room, and then you bust tires in SnowRunner. So anyways, it does have a lot of add-ons. Some of these, I believe actually that the P12 is one of the best crane trucks in the game. I don't really like this crane because I think it's just exceptionally heavy, but this one I really do like. And one reason I think this is one of the better crane trucks in the game is look where these landing gear, these outriggers, see how far they sit on the tire? This is huge, especially in deep rutted trails where you're kind of sunk in. These do not drag. If you place something like the Dan 96320, the Dan with a crane on like this, those sit like here. And they tend to drag on the side of trails or catch on things. So that can be kind of a nuisance. So you notice that, yeah, there's a lot of metal here before this platform. So this is actually raised pretty high. Also, the P12 is pretty stable. I believe it can do some of its add-ons relatively well, and I think it kind of stems on what tire option you have. I will say that in single loads of logs, okay? Not pulling a trailer of logs with it, single loads. Long logs, mediums, or shorties, by themselves, the P12 will do great. And that's kind of where I would keep the P12. So you're probably wondering why I have these add-ons that are like doubled and they kind of have different paint jobs on them. This is actually a mod that I have on here called Colorable that basically makes all these add-ons the same color as the truck's primary or secondary color. So that's probably why you're seeing these duplicates like that, basically, right? So P12, that's kind of how I would use it. And also pulling high saddle. Now we're going to move on to the driving portion. I'm going to talk about how I felt about the P12 back in the day and how I think it stacks up here in 2025 and potentially moving forward into 2026 and Q1 2027, because that's when SnowRunner Year 5 Pass will end. So let's get into that and talk about it. So in hindsight here, looking back at my review, which I do tend to do when I make these truck request videos, just to see how I viewed them back then opposed to how I view them now. And honestly, the only thing I would probably change, there's probably a few things I would change there, but I won't divulge into all those, is in the cons list, I probably would have put at number 1 is its pulling power. And that's something I think at the time I just said, hey, this truck has pulling potential issues. It's not a huge deal because I'm most likely going to be hauling a lot of cargo with other vehicles. And when I was pulling mission trailers and stuff like that in the current space I was in, I didn't really have issues. And to be honest, if you go across my whole channel, I mentioned this in the garage tour portion, if you go across my channel and just look at all my videos, there is so much documentation on the P12. It's like I've went on this counter culture with SnowRunner, I guess, where, using a truck that's kind of undesirable, I'm gonna be straight up honest, it doesn't have a lot of pulling potential, so then therefore people probably say it's terrible and they don't use it. Well, I'm the type of guy that will use something that people find undesirable and try to make it work, because I love the way it looks. I love how it looks in real life. It has a very cool story of the Pacific trucks as well. And I think it should have, or I think it should be represented in SnowRunner a little bit better. I'll say that. To what degree, I don't know. That's something I don't have control over. But if I was a casual player, I can understand coming home from a full-time job, making dinner, playing with the kids, going to sports events, and then coming home and having maybe 30 minutes to an hour to play SnowRunner. And you don't want to pick up a vehicle that's going to make you struggle for the whole duration and get zero progress done. Because let's be honest, the game of SnowRunner is 1,000 hours dedication for 16 seasons. I think it was 1,000 hours for a casual player back in, the end of the Year 3 Pass. I think I said this game probably would take 1,000 hours for a casual player. For people like me that just, we're sweaty, we're nerds, we play the game too much, I get it. It's a little bit different of a perspective, but I really do feel the P12 is misrepresented. I think it should be made a little bit better by Saber, but I also think it's misunderstood and underused, and also misused. And I kind of talked about ways to play it in the garage tour portion. And I think downgrading tires is your X factor. Now, something like the P16, you can't really do that because the P16's gimmick is its tires. So if you give up its gimmick, it doesn't have all-wheel drive to essentially help it. And to be honest, I would take the P12 over the P16 all day. there's not one scenario where I'm taking P16 over P12. Gimmick tires are great, but everybody who uses them, they know they come upon an area where not having that front powered axle just kills you. And anytime I review a truck that has RWD only with a gimmick tire on the back that basically gives it higher grip coefficients, there's always those areas in game that you just can't get by without busting out your winch or trying to get yourself over an obstacle. In Season 16, there's a lot of these little rock formations that you'll see that you need to have a front tire clawing, or just in most areas in the game. Now, on smooth surfaces, the gimmick tire works great, right? Because it just eats up that terrain. But the thing is, the P12 with a downgraded tire, I will use all day. Like I said, there is videos across my channel showcasing it. Most special mission trailer pulls that I have from a hard mode perspective, I reach for the P12 because it's basically out of defiance of the folks that say it's trash. And it's almost like I want to prove them wrong, but I also just want to like open up their perspective and just say, hey man, if you did this, you might not make it elite, but I guarantee you'll make it better. So how does it stack up here in 2025? I still think the P12 is like mid-tier. I think in my perspective, if I were to add my bias toward, I think it's actually a little bit better than mid-tier. Its stability is phenomenal, actually. There is a couple pulls where I have long logs going across this gap in, I think it's Big Salmon Peak, where I would say a vast majority of vehicles in the game cannot survive that angle. It is an angle that you essentially, most of the time, you dump your long logs there. And this is one of them that held on. So I have a respect for this truck that kind of goes through the years. It's crazy, the 5 years, right? But how does it stack up here in 2026 moving on? I think it's probably going to stay where it's at unless, like I said, Sabre touches it with the gift of adding elite pulling potential, which I don't think they will. If they do, you might see it jump up higher on this tier list, but I would think, or I would hope, that they give it some type of small buff. Whether or not that's like a tire increase, a weight increase in its tires would actually increase its pulling potential as well, or engine power. I think those things are probably where it needs touched up the most. If you if you would ask me, I would say that the P12 should be elite in pulling potential, and then you can just pull off its add-ons, man. Pull off some add-ons to compensate or to trade off. That's my compromise that I would push to Sabre and say, hey, give it good pulling power and take some of its add-ons away. That's all I want. Let it be good at what it does and what it does in real life. And with that being said, hopefully this video wasn't too much of a lecture like I tend to do on stream. I really tried to make this as short as possible because I probably could expound my thoughts on this whole subject of the P12 versus other trucks, pulling, all these other things, but I tried to make this as brief as possible. If you guys would like to hear more, please stop by the stream. I pretty much rant and rave about things, and anyone who watches, they pretty much know. So stop by the stream, stop by the Discord, and we'll talk later. But please add in to the comments section below what truck you would like to see next from the base game, including the Navistar, and the most upvoted comment will be the next one we feature on the following video. I hope you guys really enjoyed the video and potentially learned a few things along the way as well. So until next time, y'all, God bless and stay upright.